Hey everyone, welcome to Sarah Wild Create and Educate. Today we'll be making a stencil in Adobe Illustrator, and we're taking that stencil, making it an SVG file, and bringing it into Cricut Design Space so we can create our own custom doormat. Let's get started. Opening up Illustrator, we're going to File, New, and in the Measurements panel over on the right hand side, just drop it down to centimeters. Our doormat is the Trampa doormat from IKEA, and the measurements are 90 centimeters by 60 centimeters. So 90 is the width and 60 is the height. Just type that in there and hit create. All right, so now we have the size of our doormat, and we are just going to, I'm just hitting Command minus and plus just to zoom in and out. The reason I chose the size of the doormat as our artboard is just so we can see the placement and the size of the type that we'll need for the stencil. It's just easier to work that way. So we're going to go over to your toolbar and select T for type. I couldn't find it for a second. And we are just going to click once in the artboard and we're going to type in come in. Now we don't want our stencil to be that small because you wouldn't be able to read it. It's so little. So just go over one of the points here, clicking on it and holding down Shift and just dragging that until it's a lot bigger. That's just a faster way to scale the typeface and the size. You can also go to Window, Type, and Character, and you can change the size right here. Okay, so this typeface, I would rather a script. So when choosing a script, you want to make sure the edges are a little more smooth. You don't want it to have bumpy edges just because it's harder to stencil in something that is as bristly as the doormat that we're using. So it's a lot easier with nice smooth curved edges. Okay, we're going to just triple click in there, either with the type tool or you can take the arrow tool and triple click and that just selects everything. And I'm going to use the Other Way script that I have. It's called Other Way. So if you go to Character, I'm going to type in Other Way. And I got this script from Creative Market. So if you feel like supporting the artist, go to Creative Market and it's called Other Way. I'm going to just increase the size of that. And I'm going to just decrease the spacing between these two. This space here between those two letters. So we're going to use the tracking here in the character panel. I'm just going to hold down Shift. There we go, just to shrink it down a little bit. And then I also want this on a little bit of an angle, so I'm just going to rotate that. Nice. Okay, so now I'm going to take a different typeface, and I like to pair a script with either a sans serif or serif font. Don't use another script. Using the type tool, I'll type it down here. We're going to type just kidding. We are social distancing. Let's see if I even spelled that right. So I'm just going to hit Command A, and we're going to go up to our character panel here or in panel on the side, and I'll just make that a bit bigger and bring it up here. So selecting all that, I'm going to choose a sans serif, which is Fire Sans, and I think I want to make it like a semi-bold or medium. I also want to align it to the right, so you go to Paragraph, and if you don't have that panel open, you can also see it up here when you're type selected, or Window, Type, Paragraph, and you're going to justify that to the right. And I also, so I'm going to select Command A to select all of that. I also want this to be all caps. So in the character or paragraph menu, go to the hamburger menu right here and go to all caps. Nice. Make that bigger. And selecting all of that again, I want to space out the words a little bit more. So let's see. Just holding down Shift and just creating more space between all the letters. Nice. Okay, I think that looks okay. I'm going to align these two together by the right. So if you select them both by clicking on one and then holding down Shift and clicking on the next, and align, oops, make sure it says align to selection. Oh, it does. Because this is on an angle, it's gonna not align properly. So I'm just gonna Command Z, undo that, or Edit, undo. And I'm gonna optically or manually align that. In order to do that, I need to draw a guide. So if you hit Command R, rulers will pop up, and you're going to click in one of the margins of the rulers and just drag a guide over. And using, I was going to say using my arrow keys, but I'm not. Just going to bring this over here and bring this down. Right, I think that looks cool for my stencil. I like it. Maybe bring this up a little. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to create, to actually make this into a stencil font. So just to show you what I mean, I'm gonna just type something up here. Actually, it should be. So I don't want to lose these center pieces. They're a pain in the butt to pin down. So we're gonna actually create this into a stencil. So I believe I have a stencil font on here. Let me just check real quick. Yeah. So like this. Because we're limited with our typefaces, we don't want to always use just a random stencil font or typeface. We can create our own, so we're gonna just cut these into these shapes, and that way we won't lose these little center pieces here. I'm gonna zoom in by hitting Command plus, and we're gonna create a little square by hitting the rectangle tool. We're creating a rectangle, not a square. And just like a little skinny rectangle. And we're gonna change the color of that just because I don't want it to get lost on top of the other black. And we're gonna move that on top there. I'm gonna hit Command C for copy, or you can go to edit copy, and Command V, or go up to edit paste. I almost said vaste, because I always say that jokingly as Command V. And we're just gonna hit Command V for vaste again. Rotating that, bringing it over. Okay, and now we have to do the bottom here, so I'm just gonna copy that, zooming in, making our rectangle here a little bit smaller. So I just held down Shift as I was rotating that. I'm just filling in all those letters that would have those little missing or middle pieces that would get lost. I'm just hitting Command V each time. And now Command 0 just to zoom out, fit to screen. Now you're going to take your typefaces and go to Type and create outlines. That's going to make that into a shape. So you see this little overlap here. We want to make sure it's all one continuous shape. We're going to go to Window, Pathfinder, and Unite. United, and it feels so good. All right. I'm sorry. And then same thing with the just kidding, we are social distancing. Type, create outlines. And there's no overlap here, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we're gonna go back to the come in and we're gonna go to Object, Ungroup. And you're gonna just click on one of the rectangles and then holding down Shift, you're gonna click the word underneath that. And we're gonna say minus front. So that just got rid of, it just cut that shape to make our own little custom stencil typeface. And we're gonna do the same thing to the other ones. Clicking on the little rectangle, holding down Shift to select the word underneath, and in Pathfinder, sorry, minus front. Make sure you ungroup, Object, Ungroup, same thing. Awesome. Okay, so zoom out. We're going to select all of that for a second and just hit Object, Group. Great. Now we're going to create the mat sizes that we'll be cutting this out of. Because these are the areas that we're actually painting onto the mat, we need to reverse that. We need to inverse it. So I know that there is 2 custom sizes for the Cricut mats. I know that there's 2 custom sizes for the Cricut mats. There's the 12 by 12 and the 12 by 24. I know the maximum width that you can cut on a mat is 11.5, but for the stencil, we're gonna do 11.25. I'm gonna save this first. Let's save our file first. Just save it as an Illustrator file for now. Okay, and now we are going to click on the rectangle tool. Clicking once, make sure it's inches. 11.25 IN, 11.25 IN. 4 inches. There we go, and we're going to change the color of this again so we can see what is going on underneath. So we're going to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And we're first going to place this to make sure everything will fit nicely. Let's see here. I might shrink my stencil just a little bit. Just so I don't have to have a tiny smidgen on a new piece of paper or stencil paper. It's okay if you cut in to the letters just a little bit, as long as it doesn't cut at a weird, awkward where you can't tape it together or bump it up nicely. That looks okay. So now we're gonna take that square, select it, and go to Object, Transform, Move. And we want to move this horizontally the same width that the size is. So 11.25 inches, vertically 0. And I had preview selected just so you can see that it's literally going to be bumped right up to that, which is perfect. And we're going to hit copy. Just going to make this a different color just in case we need to move our stencil around. You might have to move this down. Yeah, there we go. If you didn't have to move the stencil down, you could have hit Command D and it would have moved the square one more time. But because let's see, transform again? Yeah, no. So I'll show you what I mean. So we need to move this again. So Object, Transform, Move. We need to move it 11.25 inches. We're gonna copy that. And if we didn't touch anything, like we didn't move the stencil, we only just copied that square over. If you go to Object, Transform again, it creates another square and just moves it over in the same thing that you just did. Copied it, moved it over in the same dimensions. All right, so our in is sticking up a little bit, so we're just gonna ungroup that. I hit Command Shift G, or you can go to Object, Ungroup. And I'm just gonna bring this guy down. And when we tape it onto our mat, we'll be able to move things around so we can place it properly. I just don't want to waste vinyl. Okay, so now we have our placement on our boards. We're going to select everything except the squares. So you can actually click on, if you can't get underneath those, you can click on the stencil, the lettering stencil, and go to Select, Same Fill Color, and it's going to select all our black. And we're just going to group that again. So Command G or Object Group right here. Okay, and now we're going to copy it, and you'll see why in a second, but for now, just go to Edit, Copy, or Command C, and we're going to take the pink square and this black stencil, and we're going to go over here to minus front. Now we're going to hit Command F, or paste in place, so Edit, or paste in front, sorry. And we're going to select the middle green one. Oops, sorry. The stencil and holding shift, the middle green box, and the same thing, minus front. Command F, shift, third green box, minus front. So now that just created our stencils. Ta-da! Just gonna undo that by holding Command Z. Gonna zoom out, and I'm just gonna bring this to the middle of the artboard. Doesn't matter where you put it, as long as it's on the artboard and not being cut off. So we are going to File, save this, and now we're gonna go to File, Export. You could also use Save As, I believe, for an SVG, but I'm just gonna show you here. In the format, you're gonna drop down to SVG, and you can click Use Artboards if there was multiple artboards, but you can leave that unchecked. I'll just check it for now. And SVG options, just leave it as default and hit OK. Once that's done saving, you can open up Cricut Design Space and insert and upload your stencil. Please don't insert your stencil. So we're gonna go to New Project. It's just taking a bit to load. Upload, Upload Image, Browse. And there's our file that we just did. Doesn't matter about the colors. We can change that if you want, but we're cutting it all in the same. You can use stencil film, you can use cardstock, whatever you need to. And the great thing about Illustrator, so let's just go here to ungroup, is when you create your stencil and you have it sized exactly how you need it in Illustrator, and you import that SVG file into Cricut Design Space, it remembers those dimensions. So you can see here that our width for the one is 11.25, which is exactly what we need. That's one downfall of Inkscape. You have to resize it when you bring the SVG file in. But yeah, so now it is ready to be made. And you can change the color if you need to, but it's all ready to be cut. Ta-da! We are ready to make our COVID-friendly custom mat. So for my final video, now that you've seen how to make a stencil in 3 different programs, we are going to put this doormat together finally. So hopefully you'll join me there. Thanks for watching, everyone.